kind of for whom I wrote the play, the muse of the play, and also really good friend in exploring a lot of these different topics and education and things around them. And so I also would like to introduce here Avery Baxter. So she has just joined the cast this June extension as Chloe, and then Georg Jansen, who is here as well, who also just joined the cast playing Caleb. And so yeah, it's been very varying types of discussions when we talked about this. Sometimes I just like to kind of open up and see if any of these topics or anything about the play has sparked any questions for anyone. Has anything come up for anyone? If you want to say anything? Oh yes.
I got here a bit late.
Sorry, say again?
I got here a little bit late, but I wanted to ask a little bit more about the ending.
Yeah.
In regards to it was her soul leaving with Chloe.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk a little bit more about like the meaning behind it?
Yeah. So do you mean kind of the meaning behind kind of her motives, or actually kind of what happened? Do you think?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out if I missed like a minute in the beginning that was like would have told me a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I don't think that you probably did. I mean, and we're joined by Sunn'e Ra here as well. And I don't know if you really anything in the beginning would have told you, because kind of throughout the play, I think that there was moments that clued into maybe what her Cyrene's overall motivation was with the dates and everything else. But I also wanted to, as the writer, keep it very open-ended and open to interpretation, meaning that yes, we can kind of look at possibly her motives, and then as far as like what actually happens to just overall with Cyrene being a spirit, being a ghost. Like, I don't know how the ghost world works, how the spiritual world works, and I'm not sure too, exactly what happened. I had an intention in writing it, but I don't really like to exactly share that. And I was actually wondering, do you have a theory or an impression?
I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Do you want to say anything about kind of like maybe your motivation?
Sure. So Cyrene's character, she's very much been, she was really in love with Ivy, her previous partner before Caleb. And it wasn't until she met Caleb who she just felt that she needed to help him. Like, okay, I gotta build this guy up. And so when she passes away, she ends up kind of getting stuck with him. And her motivation is really just to like find a new person to encapture with her soul. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of it. And it's interesting because, like, when we look at, for example, somewhere here it says masculine and feminine polarities, it's just a topic that I really think is valuable in understanding kind of the chemistry and relationships. Not only like, love relationships, but it kind of could be any relationship where, like Cyrene was saying, she's seeing this kind of injured soul in Caleb, whose mother was passing away. And there may be kind of this feminine urge to care for him and, kind of take care of him. But then, what she craves maybe is then that him to then, be vulnerable, but then to, as she says later, like step up and build himself back up, be the man that she wants him to be. And maybe that just, isn't happening fast enough or whatever it is. And so, she may be feeling then it's like, in fact, I mean, as she's going throughout the play, she's playing a very masculine role throughout the play. I mean, she's leading him to everything, making him go back to work, making him, and so, in feeling that masculine, maybe she wants kind of like, well, if she's going to be the masculine, then maybe she wants to find a feminine. So when I say like masculine, feminine polarities, it's very interesting to see like magnets, like a north and south. Like if there's someone in their feminine, then they can be drawn to the masculine. If someone's masculine, they can be drawn to the feminine. And just to expand on that, that's really helped also understand when we think about pride, for example, and everything that's when we recognize everything from the LGBTQ perspective, meaning, what I like to really examine as well is that we're all just people, we're all just souls, and each of us has a balance of masculine and feminine. It has nothing to do with our actual like sex at birth or our decided sex, right? It's like, even though we associate feminine with women, masculine with men, it's like, I feel like I'm a very feminine heterosexual man, and then other people on the stage, they feel very different, like what they are as far as their identity, and then what they feel as far as like this mix of masculine and feminine, and then the ability to kind of traverse that spectrum at any given time, depending on your relationship, depending on how you're feeling. And so that was like a kind of a topic that I like to explore with this play as well. So we're also joined by Nicolette Boillotat.
It's okay, Boillotat.
Boillotat, yeah, Boillotat. And then Leanardo Hamilton, Shannon Amato. And so yeah, thanks everyone for joining. As I just kind of like, I don't want to be the only one talking, but I mean, does anyone have anything to kind of expand on that particular topic? Yeah, for sure.
Polarities.
Yeah.
And hopefully I don't go off topic, but
Go ahead.
being a woman in this world and growing up with very strong Black women as well, I've always seen a very masculine side of women anyway. And not to put my mom's business out there, but just within the last maybe 10 years, 10 to 12 years, she's actually now discovered more of a feminine side of herself. Like now she wears skirts. I remember one time we were going to church and my auntie Rita was like, you need to go put on that skirt. It was like this long jean skirt. And she's like, I don't wear skirts. And I just remember that so prominently because I was like, well, girls wear skirts, Mom. And then I had the same thing happen to me in Texas where my auntie was like, oh, we're going outside, you need to go put on that little yellow dress. And I remember it vividly. I said, I don't wear dresses. And so now just growing up and speaking on how, a woman can be masculine and a man can be feminine, and then, just obviously vice versa. It is a very contrary topic that a lot of people are sometimes scared to talk about because, like you said, we associate masculinity with men and femininity with women, but we're all souls at the end of the day, and we balance throughout the day of what we need to be at that very given moment. And I just think this play is so funny because I remember those two instances in my life where I was like, I'm a girl, but I don't wear dresses. My mama don't wear skirts. So we was very tomboyish, and so it's a growth that's happening in society, period. Because we get a thing where women, we're so masculine, and the men's like, oh, I want a feminine woman. It's like, we're feminine, but if you're not being the masculinity that we're looking for, then we step up to the plate and we become that, and then you feel like we're trying to overshadow you in your manlyhood, and that's not the case. We want you to find a balance, and that will introspectively give us a balance to work with as well. So I hope that kind of just touched on the topic a little bit.
Guys, anyone else have anything? Or I don't know, is that? Yes, please.
You always write what you know. So, where did this come from?
That's a really good question. Thank you. Actually, where it came from, that's great. That's a great question. Is that I didn't know that I had a play in me at all, actually. What had happened was like I said, I worked in tech my whole life, developing new technologies for media. So I had this kind of artistic side. I'm also a musician. I made all the music that you heard and played all the instruments and stuff. But what happened was that I did get pulled into some acting from a local theater company in Los Angeles. Me and Shannon and Sunn'e all live in Los Angeles. We came out here. We brought the play out here. But what had happened is that I'd acted in something, and Shannon, one of my closest friends, she saw me act, and she said, "Oh, like that's interesting. Maybe I want to try that too," because I was just trying it for the first time. She saw my very first play, which was just a year and a half ago, and then so I said, "Okay, I'll write something for you." And right then I had like these visions of the first scene and the last scene just popped in my head, and so when I got laid off. Something else happened where I had a 7-year relationship that just ended very, very abruptly. We're joined by Jaque Jeanne here, the final cast member. And so, it was the combination of losing my relationship and my job and just being like, well, what do I do now? And it's like, well, I was feeling so raw, I was feeling so vulnerable, I was feeling extremely open to like, I have nothing to lose. Let's just go for it. And then I painted a picture that became the place poster, and then I started selling tickets, then I started writing it. And so what happened was that every character is either like parts of me or parts of Shannon. I mean, she's very much Cyrene, I'm very much Caleb, but I'm also Willow, I'm also Chloe. There's all these like aspects of me, aspects of our lives. Like almost everything that happens is a snippet of one of our conversations, either with each other, me with my like ex-girlfriend, Shannon with some of like her love interests or friends. So it's funny because it just poured out and it just like immediately on the page, it's like, well, it just came together. Do you want to kind of talk about your experience with that too? Just because I know it's a lot of you as well. And I mean,
Sure, yeah. So I guess to touch on that, I think that maybe in a lot of my relationships in general, I've always been very dominant and very much a leader. And I think it comes from being like the oldest sibling in my family. So I've always felt like, okay, I feel responsible for everybody in my life and how they feel and what happens to them and what happens next. So in general, I think that those characteristics about Cyrene leading Caleb and manipulating Caleb is very much some characteristics that I have. Yes.
how did it feel like to when you like read it or
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recognize some areas where I was like, okay, yes, I remember we had this conversation. I was complaining about this certain relationship, and I mean, it felt, I don't know, it's just, I think it's fun. It's very fun that it's in the play. Yeah.
Can I ask too? I don't know, for those then who weren't, part of the inception of this, then I mean, I know that some of you have found, and I encourage you to too, right? I mean, the way I kind of direct is like not to really give someone the character, but give them motivations behind the character, things that you can relate to. Would anyone like to speak about either in their character or even another character, like elements of that you found inside of yourself that helped shape your present representation of it?
Not necessarily with TR, but with Chloe actually, and the whole writing to her sister who has gone away. I connect with that and I resonate with it because, again, like Shannon, I am the oldest, so I feel as if I am the one who has to make sure everyone is regulated and situated, and when they're not, I take on this big, cloud of I gotta fix this and I gotta make sure you're okay, you understand what to do in this world and how to navigate it. So with that scene when she's writing to her and she's telling her all the things that's going on, that really happens to me with me and my sisters. While I'm here in New York, I'm like, y'all, this is what happened today, this is what we're doing, but y'all don't do this, or if you do this, this is what I learned from it, so do it this way. And that's just something I really resonate with, being that bubble for them to come to and just learn the walk of life, what to do, what not to do, and then also how to create your own path of what you want to happen to you, as it was done for me by one of my cousins that I got to a lot of my cousins, but particularly one of my cousins that I got to hang out with after not seeing her for a good maybe 5 years now, and I just got to reconnect and remember that she paved the way for me, and she taught me rights and wrongs and how to create my own path, and is one of the reasons why I am here today, still striving for that dream and running after it, and then being able to show my baby this world. Like Chloe's, that moment with Chloe, I just really, really love to see, and I really care for a lot.
Anyone else that kind of feels certain relationships to their character?
I can speak on something.
Yeah.
So this is really just for anyone who can relate to the two construction workers and then Caleb, because if you really analyze those characters, they're three guys all in different places of relationships and maturity. So you have Phil, who is just doing anything he can to meet women, right? And not necessarily, with the OnlyFeed stuff. Like, it's just, he looked there, he's like, I'm gonna try it. What's the worst that can happen? It works. I'm just trying to meet women, just trying to get what I can, Then there's Steve, who is in a very healthy relationship. You know, obviously him and Layla support each other. You know, he talks about, you know, he's starting OnlyFans and Layla's gonna manage him. Like, clearly, whatever they do in that relationship, they support each other. And there's Caleb, who has loved and lost, and now he's trying to rebuild. So you have these three men at different stages of maturity, and different stages of relationships, and it just shows an arc that anyone can relate to, because as life goes on, we have loved, we have lost, we've been immature, we've been supported, we have not been supported. Anyone, not necessarily just men, women, masculine, feminine, can relate to that, I think.
I love it. That's incredible. Anyone else?
For me, the way I connect with Steve is in the way that he connects with and communicates with his partner, and the way that I communicate with mine. The way that they come together, they talk about moves that they're going to make, and even though this move may benefit each other, it's still going to affect how the relationship works. And how I navigate my career, when things come up, and I get offers and things like that, you know, I speak to my partner, and we speak to each other, we talk about things, how can we move together? And then, you know, Steve and Layla, of course, they talk to each other about how can they build and move their relationship forward. And I think that's how myself and Steve kind of like connect with each other and our partners.
Cool. I want to add to that really quick, because people sometimes ask, you know, like Caleb is an example of kind of like a version of myself in my relationship where it wasn't very healthy, because it wasn't being like a strong enough masculine, and kind of getting manipulated by trying to please, you know, my girlfriend. It very much comes from like the way my parents are as well, which is going to try not to repeat that pattern. And so sometimes people say like, well, what's the healthy masculine then? And I say, well, it's actually the Steve character. And that's what I wrote in there as well. It's like, I dream of like exactly as he's speaking of, you know, like having a partnership where, you know, you are in it together, you're on the same team, you're building something together, you're making moves together. And you can have really mature conversations and moves where, yeah, like even if it's, you know, this guy's starting OnlyFans, you know, she's down for it because, you know, that's going to meet their goals together, and, you know, maybe he gets a army of bros out of it as well.
Start making moves. Start
Exactly. Any other questions coming up?
I just want to say it's very insightful. But yeah, it's very insightful on all the characters. So it's really making me think for myself.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. I don't know. So, I mean, anything else anyone would like to speak about? Anything that's come up for anyone? Just want to say, actually, if I can acknowledge too, I mean, like, so George, it's your first time playing Caleb on stage. Yeah. And I mean, it's a very important role, and I have to say that, like, you know, we've had other Calebs, and yeah, what I felt tonight, which I knew I'd feel, is that, like, yeah, there's a certain amount of like vulnerability and presence and pain, and it's like it's you just did a really incredible job, you know, holding that emotional space. And I really enjoyed seeing myself in you and seeing the feelings I felt. I don't know, I was just wondering, like, kind of like from when you first read the script until tonight, you know, which wasn't that long, right? It was about a couple weeks. Yeah, like what I don't know, what was your process for that and where you got to today?
So first of all, I think you can tell right away, but if you get to know us even closer, you could tell Doug and I, where I think we can really become really great friends, are really opposite in certain ways. And it's so funny because I mostly actually grew up with women. So I grew up with a single mom. I grew up with a very like matriarch grandma. I very much still had that kind of like, I guess you would call it typical masculine energy. And so there were so many specifics with the character that I felt like I could relate to very much, including having lost and being a mama's boy. But at the same time, I felt very nervous, to be honest, to portray it like in a correct way, because I just realized that I am from my core quite different from Doug. So I feel like it was very much just you know, tuning into that feminine side of myself, which I know I have, and which I'm very grateful for that I can sort of tune into because of my mom. Yeah, I mean, and at the same time, I guess, making sure that, you know, you encapsulate the character, but also show him in different moments in those stages, like they were saying, because you can't, you know, even though he portrays a certain side of Doug, he also goes through those stages. And in the end, he finally has to sort of accept and let go. And even though he does it in an ugly way, you know, I think he truly does, in my opinion.
Any other questions or comments? Or anything else you guys would like to say?
Quick.
Yeah.
You know, we had 2 off-Broadway debuts tonight.
Yes!
So, so yeah, I just wanted to give you guys flowers. Thank you guys so much for coming out and truly sitting and getting to talk with us. It's truly a pleasure.
I will, if I can just add, you know, you guys are so lucky in a way, because,
you know, so even though I am an actor, I don't think I've ever really been to like a off-Broadway kind of, you know, starting off, getting their foot in the door kind of production. And so for you guys who are having this experience, you know, for me coming into this fresh, and I don't want to speak for Avery, but I'm assuming the same, it's like these guys have been amazing, you know, like making you feel so welcome. And you hear things about the industry, and there are true things like that, but like we've stepped into this, and it's been very, very vulnerable, you know, not just with like talking with each other, being with each other on stage, but also like the things that are involved. Yeah.
do you want to? You don't have to. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I can piggyback off of that. I was actually just talking about this with Sunn'e in the dressing room, that Doug and Shannon were both so incredibly welcoming when I joined, which was like a week ago. When I got the call that they wanted me to play Chloe, speaking with Doug, and then he gave me Shannon's number, and I spoke to both of them before joining this cast, because I had never done the intimate stuff that we do on stage in the final scene. I had never really done that before in a performance. So they were both very, very open to talking about that with me and making me feel very comfortable, and so is George. He's been so respectful, so great. Everybody here is just really kind and respectful and professional, and it's really nice to work in an environment like that.
And something that I just wanted to say with that is that, like, Shannon and I talk all the time about just creating the world that we want to live in, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with this play, with these talkbacks in our lives all the time. And do it through communication, through respect, through you know, and that's so these are our core values that we're bringing through, and then also connecting like with each and every one of you, you know, through this and through these talkbacks. And so I also want to acknowledge really quickly, since we are acknowledging Milton back there, so if he's been our house manager, and our sound tech, and our lighting tech, but also just our guide and our, you know, like through our whole New York experience. And yeah, so yeah, we could wrap it up there unless there's anyone else like to say anything else. But thank you for coming. Please tell your friends. You know, this is the first in 9 shows that we're doing in June. Yeah, and thank you, Michael, for coming back. And, and you know, anyone who does want to come back, please do. And bring friends. Yeah, we just want to see more of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.